Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we are going to go over two pretty large stories that, well, the mainstream media is not going to tell you about, right? One of which was this summit in Stockholm, okay? And it was a online, in-person summit where numerous academics, scientists, and professors came out, doctors as well, obviously, and talked about this post-COVID world and what we need to do to recognize what has happened. And I didn't graduate from an esteemed university. I didn't graduate at all. Somehow I'm in the, I got a DM from one of my buddies who I haven't talked to back in the day, asking how I got my name as a most notable person on the website. I'm a beauty school dropout. I'm up there with like astronauts and stuff. We're just a state university. I'm just a little guy. Again, I kind of take pride in it. All those people with their degrees, and here I am, just another schmuck who, learned how to read and think for himself and dares to tell you about it, right? So this professor behind me, he at this summit was just working it, man. I mean, he was laying down bang, bang, bang points. Now, apparently, for some reason, a bunch of it got censored after the fact. And I don't know how that happened. It was on a live stream, but I downloaded the whole thing. I couldn't find him. And I want to thank the Burmis Brigade out there who found a separate video feed of it, different from the one I clicked, I assure you, and then time coded it for me so I was able to go in and get it. And he talks about the mortality rates. Remember, they're giving out race-based vaccines. That's the headline. They're targeting Latino and Black communities in this country. Okay, we're going to show you that. But it's really class warfare. And I've tried to explain that. It's them virtue signaling through identity politics and really carrying out a eugenics operation one way or the other, whether it's detrimental or good. It doesn't really matter because it's race-based. But at the same time, lumping in all those in those communities, in Santa Clara, and it's really class-based. Why? Because they don't have the resources to fight back. We're going to get into all that. We're going to play that. And then we're going to go over that vaccine data and show you where it came from. And yes, it's off the CDC's own website. And again, if there's other numbers out there, I'd like to see them. But you can download this yourself. Very easy to get. Okay, very, very easy to get. In fact, on my Facebook page, I have a screenshot that you see behind me with a link to the PDF that we're going to show on the program. So, thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share. Remember, we're fully demonetized here on YouTube because we do weird things like put Harvard professors up who, also are speaking against the mainstream narrative. We do weird things like post doctors telling you that the efficacy, although it's 90%, isn't for the infection rate. We do weird things like that. That's right. The vaccine that we're about to just kind of glance over, remember, when they say 90+% effective, right, that doesn't mean in stopping infections of the virus. They openly don't know that. They're saying to create antibodies. And I know I'm repetitious and it's tough to listen to, but for those just tuning in, I wish I was telling you a fib. I'm not. $5, $10, $15, it means the world to me. Big donors, couldn't do it without you. Thumbs this video up, subscribe, and share. Remember to Rockfin, ROKFIN, rockfin.com. That's where we do it live, 11 a.m., Monday through Friday, for free. We premiered, sometimes we, do the whole video. We did that today. So later, sometimes it comes to YouTube, sometimes it doesn't. With a free account, you still get to tune in live. And remember, if they kick me off this platform with 60,000 plus subscribers, that's where you're going to find me. So thank you so much for my audience transitioning over there, because this stuff, I think, deserves your attention, is important. Check out all the documentary films: Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and of course, Shade the Motion Picture. Let's get into it. So this is on the CDC's website, okay, as of December 19th. This is 2 days old now. And here we go. Let's do it right here. Boom. Oh, it already scrolled down. Where do we gotta go? Here we go. There's anaphylaxis. Okay, so they're talking about certain things that are happening with this vaccine, and they're sourcing it. But then they get to this, the V-Safe. Okay, so at the end of the day, they say they have 3,150 adverse reactions, which we're going to show you what that specifically means and read that here, out of 112,807 doses. That roughly works out to less than 3%, somewhere in the realm of 2.7%. Now, there are people that are challenging me on this, but as of now, I've seen this, and I don't know how you would get more testing without more results. Oh, come on. Are we really doing the stupid page scroll? Let me just read it to you on the bottom here. But you can go check this out yourself. It says, unable to perform normal daily activities, unable to work, required care from a doctor or healthcare professional. How many people are actually hospitalized that get this? And we're going to talk about asymptomatic rates. We're going to talk about the mental health of children. We're going to talk about contact tracing, all of it. Okay? So anybody can go check this out. It's on the CDC's own site. I'm going to repeat that. This is, again, a CDC presentation. I'm going to put it in the live stream comments right here, right now for everybody. Let me do that because I want to make sure you get it. Boom. CDC.gov. There it is. There it is. Live stream. You got it. It's there. Okay. So let's get to this doctor because he is hitting on key points. And he went to Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard. Or I'm sorry, he didn't go to Harvard. He's a professor there. He went somewhere else. But obviously, when you see this guy's credentials, they're pretty esteemed. They, who knows, maybe they're better than even Anthony Fauci's. I don't know.
It will not going to shift the burden of this disease from the affluent to the less affluent. And I'm going to see if I can share the screen again. Let's see.
And what he's going to do is show you that poor people are the ones that are suffering the most. It's so weird that poor people don't do as well as people with money. Sorry, guys. It always takes a second here. But again, if you haven't seen this yet, you're not alone. You know, they're not hyping this in the United States. There we go.
From the spring, you can see in the beginning of March, there was an increase. There were COVID-19 cases increased about the same in affluent neighborhoods, which are the two lower graphs, and in less affluent neighborhoods, which are the two upper graphs. One is by income, and the other one is by number of minority people.
See that?
And then we had the lockdown in March 23rd.
So I just want to point that out really quickly. So he just said minorities and poor neighborhoods. And look what we're targeting here with that vaccine. That again, 2.7% are having some severe reactions to. All right? Look at this. This is the graphic they used. Race-based vaccine plans. Race-based vaccine plans. So again, it's under the guise of helping minorities, but really it's just targeting poor people. When they say the Latinos in Santa Clara for the testing, right, only 55% of the population is Latino. The other 45% is mixed and poor. Again, don't have the resources. You think they're skipping those doors? You see what's happening here? So again, if you have less money, you are more likely to suffer death or terrible results, right? Right? Weird. You know, and I got challenged on this. And one of the reasons, again, is you have that 80% number in that study that were vitamin D deficient, right? There's vitamin deficiency. They're getting less nutrients. They have less access to good health care because they have less money and less resources to fight back against this vaccine. Just saying.
And you can see that after that, it continued to increase in the less affluent neighborhoods, while it started to decline in the more affluent neighborhoods. So in Toronto, as well as in many other cities and places around the world, we were quite successful in shifting the burden of this disease from the less affluent, from the more affluent to the less affluent. So it's the less affluent who has taken the brunt of the burden of this disease, who has built up the herd immunity that eventually protects all of us. And we can see this also from mortality in Toronto, that the mortality has been much higher among the less affluent versus the more affluent people.
It's almost as if money gets you better health care in the world. It's so weird. Again, where are all those billionaires that dropped dead from this? The old ones? I'm looking at you, Sheldon Adelson. You're pretty old, huh? Just saying. Didn't seem to happen.
Let me see now.
Thumbs this up, subscribe, and share, everybody, as he does this. This is probably like a 7-minute clip overall, but all of this stuff is extremely important.
Now you could see it didn't go down to zero because we can never anywhere, because in a pandemic for infectious disease, we can never get it down to 0 cases. So people who try to suppress it completely or who want zero COVID, once we have the disease in the country, that's impossible, and that's just something that creates more problems and actually higher mortality by even trying that.
So think about that. A higher mortality rate if you try to eradicate COVID to 0. It's a problem you can never fix on purpose. This guy's really laying it out, okay? And he's going to get to the contact tracing thing. And remember, we have that Israeli study that they had to admit was 13.5% effective. In other words, completely ineffective. He's going to bring up the ineffectiveness for any disease in a pandemic where masses are getting it.
So that's another principle, that while we cannot completely eliminate risk and harm, but we have to try to reduce it as much as possible. Another principle is that when we have any disease, what we have to focus in is protecting those that are at high risk. And in terms of COVID-19, while anybody can get infected, the risk of mortality is more than 1,000-fold difference between the oldest and the youngest. So the oldest are at much higher risk. So
more than 1,000-fold difference. Keep listening.
Old people, COVID-19 is worse than the annual influenza. For children, COVID-19 is much less risky than the annual influenza. So instead of, as we have done the general lockdowns trying to protect everybody, the key is to protect all people. And there are a number of ways that one can do that using standard public health measures.
Standard public health measures. Not lockdowns, not masks everywhere. Standard measures.
That we haven't used. Doing more testing and less at nursing homes, for example, doing less staff rotation, having older people live their life without having to be in a crowded setting, without having to go to the supermarket, minimizing multi-generational interaction by letting, for example, students to be at the universities instead of sending them homes with their older parents or relatives. So there are many of those very standard measures one can do to protect the older high-risk groups that has never been used. Now, when we have a vaccine, that's one more way to protect older by prioritizing older people for vaccination. But tragically, many of those standard practices were never used during this pandemic, and instead there was an attempt to suppress it from the whole population, which was bound to fail, and which certainly failed to protect older people from this virus. And we have seen that in the statistics. Another principle that we have ignored is about contact tracing. So contact tracing in isolation of contacts is an important tool for many infectious diseases. For example, sexually transmitted diseases, as well as Ebola, when that came to, for example, the US.
So, reasonable ones. Ebola, which is actually pretty dangerous, right? Or a sexually transmitted disease that you might have given to somebody else, and maybe, they want to have a test. Those are somewhat reasonable. Somewhat. But listen to what he has to say here.
But it's a useless and counterproductive technique for a common infectious disease like influenza or COVID-19 by default for any pandemic. So
by default.
And we can see how that has failed. There has been enormous attempts to it, but they have failed. And it's actually counterproductive because people don't want to talk to these contact tracers. And then 5 or 10 years from now, maybe we have another disease that where we do have to use contact tracing, but then people are going to be very skeptical and hesitant about it.
As they should. And contact tracers for this, yes, you are the new brown shirts. As he's telling you, you're completely ineffective. As the numbers are coming out globally, again, the admission by that Israeli company, right? 13.5% effectiveness. They're completely ineffective. It's completely ludicrous. It's about a track, trace, database society. It's about putting things on your devices that you didn't want, you don't need. Biden already told you, okay? If elected, what was he going to do? 100,000 more contact tracers for COVID-19 and other diseases. Because what is this? This is fear-based propaganda. This guy's laying it down. He's laying it down. When I saw this live, when I was watching this live, I was like, man, this guy is really hitting some high notes, and he hasn't done.
It would be much more difficult to use it when it's actually maybe important. Another one with Mike Yeadon talked about is this with cases. A case is only a case if somebody is sick. And to call asymptomatic individual cases is something very novel in public health that we have not used before and we should never use again.
And we should never, he went to Harvard. He says we shouldn't be using it ever again. We shouldn't be using it now. It's so weird that this guy is not on television everywhere. I mean, he's got the credentials. I mean, you know what? I bet you he doesn't love people as much as Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates love people. Because they've got so much love for everybody, right? This guy, he seems pretty cold. He doesn't seem like he's about love, guys. Let's find out.
And so while testing is important in a hospital setting to know what somebody is sick from, as well as in, for example, nursing home to protect all the people, to do mass testing of asymptomatic people is counterproductive and damaging. And for example, you test schools and then the schools get closed and then the students do not get any their teaching, and education is important for students. And both for their education, but also for their physical and mental health, as well as for social interaction to learn that. And we can see, I mean, if you look at it scientifically, Sweden was the only major Western country who didn't close schools, or kept schools open throughout the spring and during the pandemic for ages 0 to 15, childcare and schools. And of the 1.8 million Swedish children, exactly 0 had died from COVID-19 during this time.
Whoa, 0? Exactly 0? Huh. But I heard Sweden's bad. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I saw. Bloomberg, it was in my Twitter feed. Sweden, they're feeling the wrath. Oh, how dare Sweden be Sweden.
And that was done without any testing, without any mask, and without any social distancing. Sick children was asked to stay at home, and that was it. And also teachers were at no higher risk than other professions. So we knew from that it's safe to keep the schools open, and there's no public health reasons to close them. But despite that, there are in the United States many schools that are still closed. And then another aspect of public health that's really troubling long-term also is the trust in public health. There are no trust. The trust in public health has deteriorated greatly for good reasons.
For good reasons. I'm just going to leave it at that. It goes on. All right? This is the Stockholm, COVID Peace Summit. We played a lawyer yesterday. I think it was important to play that. Again, we showed you, and in the live chat, gave you a link to the CDC document behind me, right? This guy's telling you we shouldn't be counting asymptomatic cases. Schools should be open. How dare he? I'm going to tell you right now, he doesn't love you as much as Bill Gates, who's telling you you have to shut down your bar and your restaurant for the next 4 to 6 months. That's what it is. That guy behind me, no love in his heart. No love in his heart. I mean, they love you so much, they're willing to give you a vaccine that just might increase your risk of HIV infection and has already given some false positives. You know, when you're a big pharma company like, for instance, Bayer, you can just pay out millions when you inject people. And they say infection, but they injected people with factor VIII for those infection HIV cases. A lot of people don't know that. For a vaccine that's efficacy is only based in the antibodies and is not proven to stop infection whatsoever. Just saying, guys. You saw again, that guy's from Harvard. He's probably smarter than me. I'm not that smart. That guy, he seems a lot smarter, whether he loves you as much as Bill Gates does or not. Guys, we're fully demonetized on this platform. We're not supposed to show you stuff like that, apparently. You know, doctors, Harvard medical professors. That's Martin Kulldorff, by the way. Kulldorff. Everybody can go check him out. $5, $10, $15, big donations. That's how we do it. That's how we does it. You know, several times a day. And I got a big meeting coming up on this project I haven't talked too much about, but we're going to see where it goes. Thumbs this video up, subscribe, and share. Rockfin. ROKFIN.com. That's where I'll be if for some reason somebody with 1,700 plus videos and 0 strikes, 0 community guideline strikes ever on his channel just disappears for showing you Harvard professors. You know, Professor, Harvard Medical School. Martin Kulldorff. Huh? No love there. Bill Gates, however, a lot of love. A lot of love. In fact, there's so much love, Bill Gates gets a special loving section in Shade the Motion Picture, which is actually free in high definition over at Rockfin. You can find it there. Invisible Empire, A New World Order, Find Fabled Enemies, and Loose Change. Also, all of them in the playlist section down below in documentaries. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you.